Today is February the 4th, and it's kind of hard to believe that it's February 4th given that the sun is out and the weather is so nice. It's kind of unusual. It's a beautiful day, and it seemed like a great day to come down to the beach, which is of course one of my favorite haunts here on Lake Michigan. But I've been wanting to talk for a while and reflect on writing really as a teacher who is working with students on their writing. And I'd like to talk a little bit about e2020 and how it can be a really good writing program, probably one of the best, or probably one of the worst, depending on how it's used. e2020 has short essays all through the various literature courses: American Lit A, American Lit B, Brit Lit A, Brit Lit B. And the idea is, I think, as I look at it, is that it gets a little more progressively hard as you go through it. But if a teacher is lazy, they won't deal with any of it. e2020 has a scan system so that a student will type in and work on their essay and then hit submit, and the computer will scan it, look for certain words, phrases, check whatever it can check, if it's grammar and what they call conventions. And then it will assign a grade to it. As a teacher, my first year I came into the program and that's how it was set up, and we went through the entire course. Oftentimes I never saw a single essay that a student actually wrote. And we get to the end, we'd review them, let them take it. But I began to realize that a lot of students weren't really doing it. They were typing in gibberish, they were plagiarizing, they were doing all kinds of things, and I felt really bad. I felt a lot of regret about the first year being lost. So the second year, e2020 wouldn't put a stop for us on the essays. I wanted to specifically check every single essay. So the only way we could solve that problem was, of course, to put stops on the topic tests. So I would, check their topic tests, and that way I could go back and take a look at the essay, because usually an essay will appear before a topic test. And this way I can actually see what they've done. And then I really wasn't quite happy with just looking at it either. I wasn't happy with what I was seeing. The scan was terrible. It was tremendously inaccurate. And so this year, after having looked at that, I said, let's talk to e2020, see if we can't just switch the scan off. But they can't. They've subcontracted with another company who does the scan on it. And so that was a real problem for me. So I, of course, just said, well, then we'll do what we can do. So I would then stop them. I would sit down with them. I would work with them one-on-one with their essay. I would go through and I would point out, hey, you've got a great thesis here, but you're jumping right into the thesis statement. You want to think about how you're going to introduce that thesis statement. You want to try and catch the reader's attention. Or I would sometimes go through and just work on grammar items, because sometimes the grammar was needed lots of work for this student because people would trip over it as they read. And so I've changed things around quite a bit. And I feel very good about what I'm doing, because now, as I go through and talk about corrections, what I'll do is, you can't correct anything in e2020 unless you allow them to revise it. So what I did was, I can cut and paste an e2020 essay into Word. And then I will expand it, make the letters a little bit bigger, and I'll go through the student. I'll correct it, and then, the word processor has a wonderful thing called a highlighter. And I will highlight all their errors, and I will talk to them about ways of improving it. I'll say, maybe you need more of a conclusion here. Looks like you got away from your thesis here. And we'll just talk about it one-on-one. And that's the beauty of it. I work with them one-on-one right away. They do it, they submit it, they come see me because they can't move on with the program until they do. I'll sit down with them, work with them individually. I know exactly where they are with their writing. I know about what writing level they are. I can individualize it to them, because some people are really advanced and I can do a lot with that. Some people aren't so advanced. I can do a lot with that. But every student gets individual attention. Now, compare that to what happens at most high schools. In most high schools, a teacher will have maybe 4 different classes, 5 different classes. They may make an assignment, they may get 120 papers. All the papers come flooding in. The teacher, of course, has the overwhelming and daunting task of grading all those papers and has to get through it as fast as they can. Maybe it's a week before those papers come back. The students get the paper in their hand, they look at it, they see the grade, they go, oh, I didn't get a very good grade. I don't know that they really look at those corrections. I don't know that they've revised their papers. You know, I think most teachers hope they'll revise the papers before it's the final draft, which is the way it should be, but often that isn't the case. And so they just go on to the next paper. Hopefully they will have learned from that. Many of them will not have learned much at all from that, other than, oh, I'm not a very good paper writer. But with e2020, doing it the way I'm doing it anyway, not the way the system does it, but doing it the way I'm doing it right now, I feel like I can actually work with them individually. I give them the highlighted sheet and I say, take that sheet with all the highlighted corrections, take it back to your e2020, we'll allow revision, type in all those corrections. They often groan, they don't like it, but in the end I think it's better for them because what they end up doing is they look at their mistakes. They correct their mistakes. This is called error correction in ESL, what I'm familiar with. And by correcting those mistakes, and if they do them over and over again, they do them over and over again until they get it right. So, and then I can pass them on, and usually I will assess it, I will grade them. I don't have an objective grading. I go with the rubric that they've given me, but I'm aware that each student is different. Each student's needs are different. And so my grading tends to be individualistic, based on, I know they're growing. I watch the student, I can see their growth. Anyway, I think it's an excellent program to work with, and I think that individual attention and immediate feedback are probably the greatest gift that I could give to these kids through my interaction with them. I'd also like to say a word about sacred stories. Sometimes students, especially our students who are here for a particular reason, and that is they didn't necessarily do well at the high school, have been through just an awful lot. And the wonderful thing about writing for these students is that it has given them a forum to cry out, a forum to talk about things that are going on in their lives. And every now and then I'll get a story and I'll look at it and I won't do a lot of correction on it. I'll look at it and I'll say, you know, as a writer, you have accomplished probably the most important thing a writer can do. You have been very honest, you've been descriptive, you kept my attention from beginning to end. And so you're going to get a good grade. I might say, here, let's do this, and change it, but in the end, I will probably give them a really good grade, mainly because sacred stories are ones that are sacred. It's sacred to the individual, sacred to their heart. And as a teacher, if I just come to that paper with a cold, hard pen and grade it like I would any other essay, I would do damage. I would do damage to that student. I don't want to do that. Instead, I find it a wonderful platform to encourage them as a writer. If I say to them, honesty. Honesty is what writing is all about. You have been honest. You've been descriptive. You held my attention. You have done a great job, and I appreciate it. Sometimes I'll talk to them about their life at that point. I'll talk to them about what's in the essay. If they need guidance, I'll send them off to someone who can help them that way too. But a lot of times, it's just important that they talk. And that's the whole point, isn't it? Isn't that the point of writing? The idea of self-expression? To say what's in your heart and what's in your mind? Anyway, I may reflect some more on this. I may put together a few things for this video just to show you exactly how I do it, more than I've described it here. But it's been something that's been on my mind, and something I wanted to share for anybody who's working with students in the e2020 program, especially with writing. I don't want to see all these kids going through e2020 losing a tremendous opportunity because some teachers don't care enough to look at those essays. don't bother with it. If they just let the scan go, let whatever's happening go. One of the saddest things I can think of is if a student typed in a sacred story and it scanned it and gave them a grade, and no human being ever read it. No human being ever heard what they were trying to say. And it just passes into an oblivion somewhere, lost in the records of e2020. I think the important thing of any computer program, any online program, anything, is that somewhere there is a human connection. Somewhere there is a teacher working with a student who needs someone to see them, needs someone to hear them and understand where they're coming from, as well as help them in their ability to express themselves.